what we have done here this morning, this example of the bread and the wine being blessed and served, was set by Jesus Christ. He gave us this example. First, it was done with his disciples in the upper room before his crucifixion. And there's also an account in 3 Nephi of where he blessed and served the wine to the multitudes. But somewhere over time, this ordinance became lost. Until a young man, desirous to know which church he should align himself with, found a scripture in James about seeking for wisdom. And I'm sure as young Joseph studied and pondered and searched for the answer, that this scripture kept coming back to him until it came to the point where he knew he had to go to the woods and pray. And he asked for guidance from on high. And I'm sure he did not get the answer he thought he was going to get. I'm sure the answer that God gave him not to join any church was something he was not expecting. And so over the next few years, he continued in prayer and study, was visited multiple times by angels, and eventually the church was restored. And these ordinances that we practice today were once again established for us. But we are not the only congregation doing this very same thing this morning. There are congregations all over the country and all over the world who are practicing what we have done here this day, the ordinance, the example set for us by Jesus Christ and restored through the restoration of the church. That simple act of a young boy going to the woods to ask for guidance and direction brought this back to us. And I look at the state of the church today, the Mormon church, the Community of Christ church, Temple Lot, and there's other factions of the church, our restoration branches, the Remnant, JCRB, all the independent restoration branches today. And the question that came to me and occurred to me one day when I was thinking about what I would be talking about today. What if that young man were to go into the woods today with the same question on his heart? What would God tell him? Would he say, well, the Mormon church is the one I started? I don't know. I don't think so. Well, what about the Community of Christ church? That was reorganized by Joseph III, his son. But I know there's probably some disagreement. I got friends, family here today who belong to that church. But we believe they have strayed from some of those teachings. So I don't know that he would be told to go to the Community of Christ church. Well, what about some of the restoration branches? Some of our faithful brothers and sisters whom we have disagreements with because we feel like they have maybe run before God in setting up churches and ordaining higher priesthoods without authority. Or would he say, well, here's about a dozen restoration branches. They're all independent. They're really not united together. Choose any one of them and you'd be fine. I don't know. That's the answer I came up with is I don't know what Joseph would be told today. We're also told in the scriptures that if you are not one, you are not mine. So my question to you is, how do we become one? If we are unwilling to open up any kind of communication with those whom we have differences with. Colburn Road does an amazing job. It's amazing to me that we share with the other Central Missouri Restoration branches. We send ministers to them, they send ministers to us, and we have a pretty good communication with them. But I think the Lord wants more of us. I think he wants us to open up communications with other restoration factions, to find where we have common ground. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think we're going to be establishing another church. I don't think that's our job to do. I think we need to work on the spirit of the church. And I remember Aaron Smith standing up here probably over a year ago saying that organization does not bring about the spirit, but the spirit will bring about the organization. So my question to you I'm going to ask now is, when Christ returns, what kind of spirit are we going to be in? Are we going to be happy to be an independent restoration branch all to our own and not have any communication with those who are outside these walls? I hope not. I hope we are willing to go out and open up lines of communications and share our testimonies with not only those whom we have a lot in common with, but maybe those who we don't have anything in common with other than the love of Jesus Christ. There are a lot of misconceptions out there about what we believe. I remember being a senior in high school, and Blue Springs High School held their graduation in the auditorium. And I remember being there for the rehearsal one afternoon, and I could hear a conversation between two other students, and they're looking up at the ceiling. You got that big donut up in the ceiling, and somebody goes, "Well, what's that up there?" And somebody says, "Well, don't you know, that's when these Mormons, that's when they believe that when Christ returns, he's going to come down through that opening." There are so many misconceptions out there about what we believe. And I don't know how else to dispel those misconceptions rather than to start communicating and sharing our testimonies with those who have really no idea what we're about. I recently had an opportunity to sit down at the lunchroom at the bus lot with some people, and our former director belonged to the Mormon Church, and they knew that I was of that same belief in the restoration, and so they asked me, "Well, what is the difference between all the Mormons and all these?" And I said, "I wish we had more time, and I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version." I tried to explain to them how when Joseph was martyred, the Mormons, Brigham Young took the Mormons out to Utah, and then the RLDS Church was reorganized and by Joseph's son, who we believe had the authority to do so. And then what happened, with all the conferences in the late 80s and the early 90s, and how the restoration branches came about. And, really, when you only got about 20, 30 minutes to talk to somebody about it, you really don't have time. But it was an opportunity for me to at least begin a conversation with somebody. So when are we reaching out to those people? Do we have opportunity to witness to our friends and our neighbors? Do we have opportunity to reach out to strangers who we don't know at all and share the gospel message? It is my hope and my prayer that we will reach out beyond these walls, share with those whom we do have much in common with, but also look for ways to reach those who may not have had the opportunity to hear this message that is contained within the inspired version, the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants. Thank you.